Wow, it is really getting late. I should finish up studying these terms for AP Gov. I only have a couple more left, starting with slander. It says here that slander is the action or crime of making a false spoken statement damaging to a person's reputation. It's a good thing that this is not protected by the First Amendment. I believe that the First Amendment only protects certain kinds of speech. One of these is called symbolic speech, which is any action that intentionally conveys a particular meaning or statement to those who see it. I know that this kind of speech is protected by the First Amendment because it has been mentioned in a number of Supreme Court cases. One of these is Texas v. Johnson, where a Texas law regarding flag burning was called into question. The Supreme Court decided that flag burning was political symbolic speech and was protected by the First Amendment. Another case that showed the protection of symbolic speech was Tinker v. Des Moines Independent School District. In this case, students were not allowed to wear armbands to school in protest of the Vietnam War. In the end, it was decided that the students did have the right to wear armbands and that their symbolic speech was protected by the First Amendment. The only way that the school could have stopped the students is if it was proven that armbands presented a clear and present danger to the school being able to carry out its educational duties. Although there have been many cases that have set a precedent that symbolic speech is protected by the First Amendment, a strict constructionist may feel differently. Since strict constructionists believe in a literal interpretation of the Constitution, and since symbolic speech is not mentioned in the Constitution anywhere, they may feel that symbolic speech should not be protected. However, even a strict constructionist would support freedom of assembly and freedom of speech within that assembly, since both are mentioned in the Constitution. You can usually say whatever you want in public if you follow the proper paperwork ahead of time. In Snyder v. Phelps, it was determined that the Westboro Baptist Church could not be sued for causing any emotional distress to the family of a deceased soldier whose funeral they were picketing. Since the church was on the sidewalk and had obtained all the proper permits about gathering there was nothing the police or the family could do about it. When it came to cases like Texas v. Johnson, the Supreme Court probably used the strict scrutiny standard to evaluate the constitutionality of the law. Strict scrutiny is a standard used when the Supreme Court has to decide if a law or policy impinges on a right explicitly protected by the U.S. Constitution. There are many other ways besides this standard to ensure that people are awarded all of their constitutional rights. In my studying, I came across the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It made sure that people were never discriminated against when it came time to vote. Although the right to vote is already in the Constitution, this was added to further back it up, just like how strict scrutiny further backs up things that are already mentioned in the Constitution. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 reminds me of another piece of legislation that was designed to curb discrimination, which is Title IX of the Education Act of 1972. It prohibited discrimination on the basis of sex in any federally funded education program or activity. Its main goal was to avoid the use of federal money to support sex discrimination in education programs. Wow, I'm almost done with my studying. I only have 2 more terms left, the USA Patriot Act and the Writ of Habeas Corpus. The USA Patriot Act gave the government a wide array of abilities when it came to collecting information about its citizens through wiretaps and other data collection techniques, all in the name of preventing terrorism. It means that the government can basically collect whatever information it wants and perform whatever surveillance it wants. The writ of habeas corpus is a court order that brings someone who is arrested before a judge so that the legality of that person's detainment can be assessed. It exists so that people who have been wrongly arrested or convicted due to a lack of evidence may be released. Wow, I can't believe it. No more terms left. Time to go to bed and hope for the best on my AP Gov test tomorrow.